everyone, it's Caitlin from Really Big Plant. Thank you so much for joining me.
Really Big Plant.
For this video, I figured we could just do a very casual update. I wasn't planning on filming today, but a couple of people have asked for updates on the pothos that I chopped up, so it has been doing stuff, so I figured I could just show it to you and show you some of the other plants that I've mentioned recently on my channel and just check in on some of those things. So the pothos is growing. I chopped this up a couple videos ago. This was the pothos that used to be up on the wall in my living room, and I've just had this tray sitting over here. I've watered it maybe I've just let them bottom water in here a couple of times, maybe 2 or 3 times since. It's been like a month. They're pretty much all growing, which is really exciting. I was pretty sure that they were going to grow, and these are just soil propagations. I haven't been like obsessively watering them or anything like that. I've just been treating them like they're pretty much a normal plant. I have been trying to not forget about them, so I have been coming in here and watering them before they're totally dry, but well, this is dry. But it's the smallest pot in there, so it needs some more water, but the rest of them are growing too. Surprisingly, the one that's just sticks is taking off a little bit faster than the other ones. I do think that it could have something to do with the fact that starting with the wet stick is more of a emergency situation for the plant, and it needs to just get a leaf growing so that it can start to try to survive, versus when a plant has a leaf already, it has a solar panel, and so it doesn't need to try to grow a new one so fast, if that makes any sense. That's not scientific, that's just my understanding, or that's sort of my reasoning and my best explanation for why this kind of thing might start to happen, where all of these little sticks are sprouting before all of the plants that have a full leaf. So you can kind of see in the footage that very few of these little leafy guys are developing the little nubs. I mean, they are. You can see the start of it, but they're just happening a little bit more slowly. So maybe that's actually an argument in favor of chopping all the leaves off. I don't know. But they're all growing. They're growing. And I do think it's also possible that the ones with the leaves I buried a little bit further into the soil. So those little leaf initials, the little initial leaf bud for the first new propagated leaves could just be developing underground right now, and we still can't really see them, and they'll pop out hopefully sometime soon. And then here's my giant pothos. It's seen better days. These are the really old leaves on the plant, and I'm probably going to cut them all off soon because it's just not looking super happy. I explained at the end of my golden pothos video before that these were spots from sunburn, and I sort of was full of self-doubt afterwards, not sure if it was going to turn into some kind of fungal infection, because it does look a lot like rust, but the spots haven't spread or gotten any worse and aren't developing fruiting bodies or anything like that on the plant. They just look terrible. So I haven't talked about this plant too much because it kind of bums me out the way it's been looking. So I'm probably going to chop it up finally pretty soon. So watch out for that. Okay, so we're over here by my really tall snake plant. I'm embarrassed, you guys, but it's still in the closet. The one really tall one that had gotten the crimp down here has pretty much completely healed, and I have it in my closet in here. It's basically to the ceiling. And then this is a secondary leaf comes out of here. So yeah, this is the plant. This is a sansevieria erythraeae, by the way. And the really exciting thing, it's growing this flower. So this started popping out, I don't know, a couple days ago, maybe, actually no, a couple weeks now. And it was really small at first. I can flash up a picture of it. And now it's got this huge inflorescence on here. So can show you. It goes all the way down there. Ignore my nepenthes. It flowered a couple of times and I need to clean it. It's covered in pollen and consistently thirsty, so I really need to repot this. I'm probably going to propagate this whole plant, so we'll see that coming up sometime soon too. This is so exciting to me that it's making this flower. So yeah, it's not done developing yet clearly, but I thought I would just show that to you because yeah, I think that's really, really cool. I think most people's snake plants tend to not flower inside, but this one, as you can see, I keep in this very brightly lit area over here by a window, and it's definitely flowering. What I really want to do with this plant is, I'm embarrassed that I never, I never dealt with this. It's in the closet. But I tried putting a bamboo pole with this plant, but I really didn't like the way it looked with the bamboo pole. So I think what I need to do, see this like mostly dead palm tree behind me? I think I want to swap this snake plant out with this palm tree, but I also don't really want to get rid of this. I need to just like cut off some of the dead fronds, but I've just been full of indecision about this palm tree because it looks mostly terrible, but I feel like I don't want to throw it out because I've had it for like over 2 years now as just this like single frond. So I feel like it's hanging in there and I just can't bear to toss it. But this frond is on its way out, as you can see. So it's almost time. And I think once that happens, I'm going to take this snake plant and move it into this position. These two plants are mostly dead, completely dead. And so I need to get rid of those. But then there's the one frond in there that's still very much alive. Okay, and then I guess we can just go straight over here to my monstera. So this is still in the process of turning. Clearly it's not quite there yet. I decided to close that blind because I think this plant has been burning a little bit. And so since there's new leaves developing over there now, I just closed it and I think we're doing a little bit better on the monstera. So yeah, I think soon I'm gonna have to stake this up again. Look, there's a new leaf. I want to continue pushing this up because I think now it could take another little push. So it's getting there. It's getting there. And then over here, the philodendron giganteum, which I just have sitting here and doesn't look great, and I might need to propagate it again. It's a little droopy right now, I just watered it, but it does have the new little leaf nub coming out right there, so that's exciting. Okay, and then these giganteum propagations are still like starting to do their thing. I haven't seen any of them sprout the little growth nub yet, except for the one that was the end cutting, so I'm just leaving them in there for now. I have a new shelf system back there, but I'm still waiting for some components, so I will show that to you guys soon. Gosh, I'm sorry, it's so messy in here. I wasn't planning on filming today. It's my day off. I was gonna clean up. I need to like wash my hair and do some self-care and do some home care today, so excuse the messier than usual state of my apartment. I thought it would be fun to do an update regardless. Okay, and then while we're over here, I figured we can just do a little tour of shame of this zone that gets really bright light. I keep this window open and it faces southwest, and then these are mirrors here clearly, and it reflects this light all back and forth into this area. And there are certain plants that I've stubbornly tried to keep over here, but they just don't do well. And so I think the time has finally come for me to try to move them. It's also like really messy. I'm kind of embarrassed, but whatever, you guys keep me accountable. So I'm gonna go ahead and just try to clean up a little over here and show you some of the plants. So I've got this adenium obesum, which loves the sun. It's a desert rose. But then I've got these like, this is a homalomena. It was a homalomena emerald gem that I tried to rescue from one of the other plant stores I worked at a long time ago, and I let it die too many times. I sort of took advantage of how it dies and comes back and dies and comes back, and I separated out this plant really early on and put one over in really bright light and then put one in a lower light area, and this one over here has just fried up, and I honestly have kind of just let it fry. I don't know. I think maybe because I have multiple of these plants and one of them is doing great, I kind of just neglect this one, which like isn't a good way to be, but it is what it is. So this one, this one needs to move out of this area. So I think I'm gonna just put it somewhere else. Just put it over here. Okay, and then these two monsteras, they're baby monstera deliciosas that needed to have been repotted out of their tiny pots like a million years ago. So I have a couple of small monstera deliciosas that like I went through this phase, I don't know, like a year or so ago where I kept buying them for some reason. I don't know what my problem is. And so oh, actually I was buying them up when I saw little flecks of white on them in the plant store, and I still kind of do this. I'll buy the little baby monsteras if I think they might turn into albos. So far, no success. But I have a whole bunch of baby monsteras that are all in very similar condition to those, as in extremely thirsty and very sad and sickly because I just don't care about them even a little bit. So I think I want to pot them all together. Should we do that right now? Let's do that right now. I don't know if this is a good idea because then they're gonna get huge, but I don't know what else to do. So I guess I could give them to people, but they look so terrible that like no one would want it. Let's pot them all together. Okay, so I feel self-conscious about all of those really crappy plants I just showed you, so I'm showing you some of my nice rare plants right now. Ooh. So I've got like, I have a lot of aureum monsteras. I've never talked about them on my channel before because I feel like it's an enormous flex and I'm not trying to be that way. But I thought I would show them to you because I am capable of taking care of nice looking plants, and I feel like on my channel I spend a lot of time showing you all of the plants that need so much help, and when I watch things back, I'm like, this girl only has trash plants, and that's not true. I have some nice plants too. I wanted to just show you some of my plants. You know, I got some nice plants. I got this little epipremnum pinnatum over here. I've got, well, this one's seen better days. But I've got a really nice silver amplissimum, you know. So I thought I would just show you. I've got some more sad pothos. Oh, I want to show you this other plant. The philodendron fritz-wentii that I propagated in a CHORES video a long time ago is growing its way up this shelf here. And oh, yeah, look at this. This is my philodendron varicosum mini. It's like one of my favorite rare plants, honestly, because it's somehow taken zero acclimation. So this philodendron varicosum mini is one of my favorite like rare plants that I have because it has been such a easy growing plant. It's one of the only ones that I've ever bought that said specifically that it was going to need to go into a terrarium, and it's doing so well outside of a terrarium. So I am kind of like personally against the whole greenhouse cabinet thing. I mean, not against it. I don't employ humidity cabinets or grow tents because I've been down that path and I've realized about myself that when I put my plants away behind something or into a box or a cabinet, I stop taking care of them. I don't know what it is, but I just don't like them as much when they're not in my immediate environment and I can't just like reach out and touch them. So I've kind of decided that I have this thing when I get plants that need a certain humidity condition, I just kind of leave them out and let them struggle and try to just tough it out and acclimate into my apartment without any kind of intermediate phase, which might be really stupid for some of the rarer plants, but I'm kind of at this point where I don't want plants that have to be inside of a bag or inside of a cabinet just because, I don't know, I've realized that I don't really enjoy them that way. I like them to be out. So for that reason, a lot of my rare plants take a really long time to acclimate to my environment because I refuse to give them an intermediate phase. They just have to deal with it. But now let's get to an update on the plants that I imported from Indonesia. These plants are not doing well. It's been a couple months and I've been waiting for them to grow some new leaves so I can show them to you guys, and I'm embarrassed that compared to other people who have import updates and like will show you all this new growth a month later, my plants haven't like done anything. And I think it's because I'm not giving them super high humidity and they're not very happy about it. The Plowmanii didn't make it. It struggled and struggled and struggled. I did put it in a bag. I put it in a bag because it was having such a hard time. I put it in a bag. I thought it was going to be okay, but it just was never able to grow roots, and it got covered in mold and the whole thing just, you know, I tried to air it out. I did my best with it. I really tried, but it just never made it. It died pretty quickly after the import. And then let's see what else we have here. I've got this philodendron gloriosum, which this is the newest leaf. Oh, how could I forget? All of these plants had thrips, by the way. They all had thrips. So they all needed to be treated for thrips and were super set back. That was a bummer. I had already put them here in with my other rare plants, and so everyone needed to get washed and sprayed with chemicals. I wasn't sure if these plants were gonna make it. So they all had thrips. They're all in recovery. So the philodendron gloriosum is doing okay. This is the newest leaf, which is still developing. And then the melanochrysum over here. So these were the 4 leaves that were on it when it arrived. And then I planted it into this pot with a stake. And it's almost all the way to my ceiling, and it's failing at every node to put out a leaf because I think it's just not humid enough. But yeah, this plant isn't doing super well, so I need to chop and propagate this entire thing. And then the Vitarii folium is also like, I don't know, it struggled after the thrips, and then I tried to pollinate the inflorescence because it grew too at the same time, but I had an unsuccessful pollination, so yeah. Now let's take a look at my PPP over here. After I put it on this stake, you guys, it's been growing so well. I need to attach that. But I think I probably will propagate this soon too. All of the smaller leaves that were on it last time I showed you the plant have died off. But it's doing great. It loves life on this pole. It's put out a couple of half moons. Okay, so let's do a little update on these hoyas. So these were from my last video, the hoya rescue, and this is the Kentiana/Wyetii. And I've been pulling weird leaves off of it almost every day. So I've been treating it like a normal hoya for the most part, doing nothing special, but it is doing this still, where the leaves are just shriveling up for no apparent reason. So yeah, I've been losing a good amount of leaves on this plant, and I know I said I was gonna throw it away, but it's only been like 2 weeks since I potted it in here. So I'm gonna give it a little bit longer because this death could also totally just be from transplant shock from repotting it. I totally ripped up the whole root zone of this plant. So like I would expect to lose some leaves from that regardless. So I'm gonna give it a little bit longer. We'll see what happens. But I am starting to notice that some of these white areas are like having the yellowing and turning brown in the way that I was first alerted to this plant having a problem. So we'll see. And then let's take a look at the little salad. So I instantly regretted potting this salad with the cuttings from that plant afterwards, but whatever, I guess it's fine. It seems to be doing okay. No change on this. These leaves might not make it. all of the parts of the plant that were from there look like they might not make it. But the rest of it's doing okay. Got some growth on here. All right, it is super sad monstera makeover time. So these are the two monsteras that I was showing you in my really sunny hallway before I got really distracted by showing you some of the rare plants in my bedroom. So now we can get back to these monsteras. So these are the two that I've got in the hall. They are in tiny 4-inch nursery pots, and they're even the short pots, not the full size. So they're really struggling in very, very tiny pots. And then this one is also in a short pot. So these two plants aren't super happy. These are very thirsty monstera deliciosas. I watered these yesterday and they still look like this. And then I've got two more. So I have these two that have also just been low light struggle plants. I don't care about these too much because I have some really huge, much more impressive monstera deliciosas, and I keep bringing home these little baby monsteras because sometimes they just look so cute to me and they're irresistible, and I buy them and then I regret it every time. 4 times now. So I've got all of these plants. Oh, I have one more. I'm gonna go get it. This was a 2-inch one. So part of the reason why I bought these, I know at least 2 of these plus this one are ones that I purchased because I saw flecks of white on the leaves and I thought they might turn into albos, but none of them have. So let's just pot them all together. It's gonna be the craziest, hugest pot of monstera ever. It's gonna have like 30 plants in the pot by the time I combine all 4, 5 of these little guys. So let's just get started. I've got this pot that I covered in holographic wrap one time. I thought it would look cool, but it mainly just looks like a really ugly trash can to me. So whatever, we're gonna use this because this seemed like the right size. That is the definition of extremely root bound. Look at that. I remember now, this one I bought because we got a batch of them into the store. This was like a year ago. They were really thick. The leaves came in really thick. They almost seemed like a different species of plant, like a philodendron rugosum. The leaves were just so chunky, even as a juvenile plant. It was so bizarre that I bought one to just see what happened to it, but as soon as it grew more leaves, they stopped being really thick like that. So I think it must have been given some kind of growth hormone in the nursery. It was very unusual. I'd never seen a monstera deliciosa with that texture leaf before. And so I bought one to keep an eye on it, and so far, no difference. The stems are kind of thicker. I think it was a growth hormone that just thickened up the whole plant. So, and now that it's not getting that growth hormone, it's not really continuing to be thick. So let's combine them. Oh, so root bound. Normally I don't do too much of breaking up of the root ball, but these are very root bound, and sometimes when you start with the roots all kind of knotted up like this, it can be hard for them to find their way into a new substrate that isn't identical to the substrate they're currently potted in. So I don't always break up the roots because I usually say that life will find a way no matter what you do, but I think for these guys it might help them out a little bit to just free up the roots teeny bit before I stick them in. And then I'm also going to bury these down a little bit further than I would normally recommend. Normally when you repot, you don't want to bury parts of the plant that weren't buried before, but because These Monstera deliciosas started off so small and have been growing thicker and thicker as this plant does. The stems down at the bottom are very weak. They're the weakest part of the plant because they're the thin juvenile stem before it's thickened up, and there are aerial roots growing out of some of these thinner stems, and a lot of the older leaves down here are dying anyway, and I'm going to just cut them off. So I don't really think that there's going to be any problem if I bury this a little bit further. In fact, I think it might actually help these plants out. I think with a vining plant like this that does grow these aerial roots along the nodes, it is okay if you bury it in a little bit sometimes. It's just that sometimes you can run the risk of rotting the non-root parts of the plant that get buried that weren't buried before. Sometimes plants have a little bit of a hard time with it, so you can combat that by bottom watering or just making sure that you're not overwatering by pouring little amounts of water near the stem frequently, to try to avoid that water from causing damage before the plants sort of acclimate to their new buried height. We're not buried that far. Okay. What do you think? Maybe not my best work, but I don't know. I don't know, you guys. This pot is probably even too small for these 4 plants. They're gonna be in a very similar situation really soon because there are like 20 plus plants in this pot now. You know, when you buy a pot of monstera, all of the plants in there, they're not one plant, but each vine is a separate plant that grows its own root system. And so now in here, I've got like 20 plus plants. I was going to put a stake in here so that I could kind of tie them up, but I think what I'm gonna do is just let this one run wild, let it just grow free and see what happens. You know, I've seen sometimes people will keep Monstera deliciosa like a hanging plant, but I know it's not a super popular thing to do because the leaves don't turn into your really big Monstera leaves, but I have multiple other Monstera deliciosa plants that I take a great effort to try to train and stake up, and I care for those with a lot of attention. So this one is maybe more like my trash Monstera. No, that's kind of rude. Maybe it's not a trash monstera, but it's just one that is going to just do whatever it wants, and it's gonna just figure itself out. I'm not going to give it too much additional support, and we will see what ends up happening with this plant. So I really hope that you guys have been enjoying this video. I'm really sorry for how chaotic and unstructured it's been. I just want to say thank you so much for being here and for watching and for encouraging me and for sharing your plant updates with me. I really love hearing the really long updates about your plants. Like, if you're up to typing a novel into a comment about your plants or something relevant to my videos, please do. I love it. I just want to say thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate each and every one of you so much. Every time my view count goes up by 1, I am just, I don't know, you guys. I feel so grateful for the world we live in these days. Despite everything that's bad, there's so much potential and opportunity for joy and self-growth and meeting other amazing people who are also on similar journeys. And yeah, I just feel filled with gratitude every time I come onto YouTube, to be honest. So thank you so much for creating a space that allows me, and I'm sure others, to feel this way as well. You guys are awesome. Plant people are truly the best people. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you are all having a fantastic week, and I hope to catch you in the next one. Bye.